January 23rd, just last week, Metro Division officers. For those of you who haven't been fully plugged in with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, did a car stop, pulled over 41-year-old Harold Easter during that car stop in West Charlotte. Mr. Easter, he was taken into custody out there on the scene and transported back to the Metro Division team office on Beatty's Ford Road. During that arrest processing, he's back there at the team office. Mr. Easter experienced a medical episode and he lost consciousness. Metro Division officers identified that crisis, that medical crisis that Mr. Easter was in at the time, administered first aid, called medic. Medic arrived and transported Mr. Easter to the hospital, to a local hospital. He was in the hospital for several days before, tragically dying in the hospital on January 26th. The 5 officers that were involved in the arrest were identified earlier this week, and anyone who needs that information can see me offline, and I'll be happy to get that to you. They were all 5 of them that were involved in the arrest, as indicated in the information we released earlier in the week. Have been placed on administrative leave, and that's protocol. Anytime that there's an officer-involved shooting or someone dies in the custody of a Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officer, CMPD homicide detectives launched an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the incident. Since that time, there has been a significant development in the investigation, and Chief Putney's here this afternoon to walk you through what that development is. We also have District Attorney Spencer Merriweather here from the District Attorney's Office this afternoon to walk you through the protocol, the investigative protocol when it comes to CMPD officer-involved shootings, expectations, in-custody deaths. So we also have the District Attorney with us here this afternoon. Before I do introduce the Chief, just want to, a little housekeeping. Neither the District Attorney or the Police Chief are going to get into any of the hyper-specifics with regard to the investigation. As it was reported yesterday, this is an independent third-party investigation being conducted by the State Bureau of Investigation. Their case, they're doing their investigative work. Both men feel that it would be disrespectful to the process and could possibly hinder that independent work that's being done on behalf of the SBI right now. So they're going to refrain from answering anything with regard to the specific case out or independent of anything I just outlined a little bit earlier. I think we'd all agree that, we need to respect the process. We owe that to the Easter family. We owe it to the officers. And, quite honestly, I think we owe that to the community. With that said, I'd like to introduce Police Chief Kerr Putney.
Good afternoon. The big development really is just a transition on who leads the investigation. The incident happened, about a week ago. 2 days ago, we were finally in a position where the district attorney and I could have a conversation. And within those 2 days as well, we did make contact with the family to give them preference, talk about their preference, and give deference to them about who leads this investigation. They chose to have it independently investigated. The criminal investigation now transitions, as you know from yesterday, to the State Bureau of Investigations. They will be the lead agency in this criminal investigation. A couple things for me, one of which is this transfer. We're working through the policy that really the state mandates that there's an option for the family of the deceased to choose an independent investigation based on an officer-involved firearm-related fatality and serious bodily injury. The protocol that the district attorney has implemented is a bit more proactive. I talk about the legal standard, I just gave that to you. We always want a higher standard. We think this protocol is allowing for that. This is no indictment on the work of our detectives. Our detectives' work in investigations is second to none. The technology that we have been blessed with here locally, second to none. But there is a need for independence, thus this protocol, thus the process that we're going to talk about. Anytime there's a loss of life, it's a big deal, be it also involved shooting, or now we see an in custody. Heart goes out to the Easter family. Just met, some of them are here today. This is not easy. It never is. I wish I could tell you that this is going to be a pristine type of situation. It's not. No loss of life is easy to watch. This is no different. I will tell you, though, that I applaud the district attorney and the work we're doing with this protocol. It's under construction. It is not perfect. And I know in this line of work, when you make changes, people assume that you've done something wrong. I don't see that. I think we're looking to exceed that legal standard, and this is how it works, and this is an extension of the intent of that protocol. We want to be independent when independence is needed, when the family requests it, and we're allowing for that. Not just what also involves shootings, though. At the conclusion of the SBI's investigation, it goes into the hands of the district attorney, and then we launch our internal investigation. The criminal talks about whether or not the incident was within the boundaries of law. This also involved in custody. Death was within the boundaries of law, and then we need to make sure it's within the parameters of our policy. That will be launched at the conclusion of the criminal investigation. District Attorney and I'll turn it over to him, but we're here now to answer any questions you may have. But first, I want you to hear from him the expectations, the reasons behind, and what that policy looks like as it stands today, and how we can continue to contribute to improving it as we move forward. Spencer.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you briefly today. I know I speak on behalf of everyone in the District Attorney's Office that our hearts are certainly with the family of Mr. Easter. I am in an unfamiliar circumstance in speaking with you today about a case that is still under investigation. As a matter of fact, I won't be saying very much to you with regard to any of this, except I do want to be able to explain to you the process that sort of took place and what goes into deciding whether or not a third-party organization should take over an investigation. In determining the policy that we put forth a few months ago, this was all about trying to make sure that public trust was at the forefront of what we did. There has never been a question in my mind about the competency and the ability of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department to conduct these investigations, and they have done so better than any law enforcement agency in the state. The question, however, is whether or not it is the best outcome for a law enforcement agency to conduct an investigation where some of its own officers are involved, particularly on a case involving fatality and serious injury. Now, as Chief Putney indicated, the law, for those of you who have pencil and paper on you, it's North Carolina General Statute 147-90. Does direct us to consult with the family and hear from the family, and if the family of the deceased asked for an investigation in a case involving a fatality from the use of a firearm involving an officer, then in fact we would so direct the SBI to conduct that investigation. That is not the circumstance here. That was not the circumstance that I contemplated when we originally put forth a policy just a few months ago. We wanted something a bit more expansive, and it's what you have seen implemented over the course of the last couple of months. I give Chief Putney a lot of credit, because even though the circumstance that's before you today falls outside of a use of force continuum, he had the foresight to make contact with me and speaking with one another, and certainly consulting with the family of the deceased. It was extremely important that we proceed as we have and what has been announced to you today. Again, I hate that I won't be able to talk a whole lot about the details at this point. I'll merely say that an investigation is ongoing. I certainly have been in contact with agents from the State Bureau of Investigation. I'm going to let that investigation and see where the evidence leads us and go from there. With that, we'll take some limited questions, but again, I won't be able to be very expansive in the comments that I'm able to make.
You talked about the public trust, Spencer. I think that's at the core here, and many of the people who were at the news conference outside of the Metro Division the other day are here, and they talked about public trust. Is that why we're making this change?
Public trust, public confidence. I think that, both the chief and myself find ourselves in roles, as do any public servants, to make sure that the work that you do has the public's confidence. If there are certain procedural things that we can do differently to make sure that that confidence is established and that trust is maintained, we intend to do it. Now, to be quite honest, it won't always be the way that people want it. At the end of the day, particularly in a circumstance like this, I will have to be in the position of being able to make an assessment as to what's appropriate for a given set of facts. I have done so in this case. I have done so in previous cases. But every circumstance and every set of facts is different. And I, along with other officials, will need to take a look at what's in front of us. You heard from me, you heard from my office just a few months ago about a particular type of case that we would be directing the SBI to investigate. And yet we have a different one. The chief said it best. The circumstances are evolving, and thus your protocol has to evolve with it. I hope that answers your question.
Real quick about that, too. Here's the deal. The difficulty balance is this. If you would have asked me 2 weeks ago about the work that's going on to fight crime, this would be the type of officer I would talk about. But here's the deal. Everything that we do has to be evaluated, and that's a part of this process. Now, based on the outcome that I talked about that we just highlighted and the loss of life, that evaluation's going to make sure we maintain public trust. Somebody else? Yes, sir.
I would confirm what the district attorney said, that this fell outside the use of force continuum. So this was not a case of use of force.
Correct. This was in custody. So we'd taken custody. We were effecting an arrest, transporting to a division office. So this is not really a use of force. A use of force would be if I'm having to use physical force to apprehend you. That was not the case.
Can use of force happen inside a police station?
Hypothetically, a use of force can happen just about anywhere the police encounter somebody. Yes.
Are you saying it didn't happen in there?
I'm saying there was none on the, where the arrest was effected, nor anywhere else, based on what we've seen. There was no use of force. That's why he said it was outside of a use of force, because no force was used.
And the medical emergency happened at the police department?
Metro Division Office.
District Attorney Merriweather, I know this wasn't in your policy from a few months ago that dealt with officer-involved shootings and use of force. Does this case change the future of the policy, or is it still going to be case by case, or will these kind of cases be part of that policy moving forward?
When we made the change that we made over August and September, it was done so thoughtfully. It was done so trying to look at sort of what history told us, and I think that we've got to continue to do that. We will learn something from every set of facts and circumstances that we face, all of them being unfortunate, all of them having to do with a loss of life or serious injury. And so we have to make sure that we're doing it carefully and thoughtfully, and we'll continue to do that.
So in the future, cases like this, will they, where someone dies not by use of force, will that automatically trigger an independent investigation? Or
Well, my first hope is that there won't be any cases like this, that there won't be loss of life like this. But I think that it is important that, again, on a case-by-case basis, we take a look at it and go from there.
What I'll tell you is, this is the model. So there will always be a consultation between the district attorney and the police department, and then deference given to the family. So this is the model. Whether or not this is going to be in every case is yet to be determined.
Is the family the primary reason the SBI investigation is happening in this case?
It's twofold. Like I said, it's a conversation and consultation with the district attorney, and then there's deference to the family. So it's a two-step process.
Anybody else?
This may be, I don't know if you can answer anything about this, but are you able to talk about any signs of health issues that the person in this case went through,
No.
Mr. Easter, when those may have been?
Absolutely not. That's going to be a part of the investigation. Listen, there's a fact-finding mission that's underway, being led by the State Bureau of Investigations. All of those things, including a sequence of events and everything else that you want to see and hear about. But that's going to be, once this investigation is complete, delivered, and then deliberated by the district attorney. So I know everybody wants to know this is not CSI, won't be wrapped up in an hour. The problem is they take time. We're a weekend, And you're seeing we're having to make transitions as far as who's leading the investigation. So now they got to get up to speed and continue that investigation forward. It takes time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.